Right, and now let's move the conversation away from World Press Freedom Day. The Speaker of the Parliament of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS Community Parliament, Honorable CDA Mohamed Tunis, has written a letter to the Chief Clerk of the Central Criminal Court in London to temper justice with mercy over the conviction of a former Deputy Senate President of Nigeria, Senator Ekweremadu, and his wife. Recall that Senator Ekweremadu and his wife, alongside the Nigerian doctor Obinna Obeta, were recently found guilty of attempted organ harvesting of a Nigerian trafficked to Britain to provide a kidney for their ailing daughter.
Well, former President Olusegun Obasanjo had last month written a similar letter where he pleaded same for Ekweremadu. The plea by the ECOWAS is an appeal to emotion, and it cites lessons that must have been learned by the former Deputy Senate President. Ekweremadu is due to be sentenced on May 5th at the Central Criminal Court, Old Bailey, in the UK. It's also important to note that the House of Representatives in Nigeria is actually in a motion raised by Toby Okechukwu during the plenary session of the House on Tuesday. Have also pleaded that the UK court should temper justice with mercy in the sentencing of the lawmaker, and also urge the federal government to take diplomatic steps to intervene in his trial. Well, if you look at the screen there, you can see Honorable CDA Mohamed Tunis as the Speaker of ECOWAS Parliament. What he had to say, he made mention that at this juncture, he wishes to add that he totally stands against the crime for which the senator and his spouse have been convicted for. The Community Parliament also stands against it. We do not support organ harvesting in any way and by any method. Nevertheless, we believe that lessons have been learned, and not only by Ekweremadu, but by everybody right there. That's the end of quotes. Well, those are the statements that he has made. But the question is, when it comes to the 5th of May, what will be the stance of the UK Parliament? Will they temper justice with mercy as being said or purported, or being asked, or being pushed, or being mentioned by these various quarters here in Nigeria, from the elder statesman and former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, down to the Parliament, where members of the Parliament are indeed speaking or surrogates. It's a very tough one, by the way. We're starting to see where emotions are being, flared in different angles and areas. We have suggestions, we have questions, we have people who are equally coming out to speak and say, yes, he's committed a crime. However, don't you think you should actually ease on the things that he's going to face? You have his daughter. Remember, she hasn't been taken care of yet. Yeah. You also have the young man who was brought all the way from Nigeria to have his kidney harvested for that purpose. You also have the wife who's going through a tough time. You have the husband. You also have doctor. So 5 persons are actually fingered in this entire situation.
Yeah. So there will be mixed emotions and mixed reactions to this, and I think the UK has already also said that it is the first time that they're going to be prosecuting a case like this. So that might be, a little bit of saving grace for, everybody involved here. And the reason is, it can also, I feel, and this is from my very unprofessional perspective now, it can also be seen as an attempt, right? Not necessarily that a crime has been actually committed. It was still being, it was almost committed. And so that might be places where they can, seek some leniency and all of that. But I think it's also important to point out the loud silence from the Nigerian government itself, which I find very, very, very telling. That the Nigerian government itself, the President Muhammadu Buhari and the National Assembly and everybody involved, the Geoffrey Onyema, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, everybody involved, the silence with which they have responded to this thing is very, very telling. And it's, once again, I think I said this on Monday, I believe, that one thing that we would always be able to point out is, for example, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, for me, I saw that as leadership. And everybody who even criticizes Obasanjo every single time, people who even hate Obasanjo, when they read that letter, what they saw there was leadership. That's and right. Being able to properly represent your country and represent your citizens' interests in any part of the world that they are. Doesn't matter the crime that they have committed. You should always, first of all, speak on behalf of your citizens, represent your citizens' interests before anything else. And that's what we saw in Obasanjo. We've also seen that with the ECOWAS ECOWAS person here. But the silence from the Nigerian government itself is very, very telling, very, very embarrassing. Nobody, of course, is supporting the actions of Ekweremadu or his wife or the doctor, but there should be some level of representation from the Nigerian government to say that this is our citizen and we will speak for him. Please, show some leniency. We will settle all our matters at home, somehow, some way. But there is that.
It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. But I mean, just countdown. Today's the 3rd. The countdown is on. We'll get to see and hope that truly justice is being tempered with
if they will.
With mercy, yeah.